Hello and welcome to Chadify. Today we'll be analyzing 3 different individuals who purchased my face analysis Looksmaxxing suggestions in Chadification gig off my website, Chadify.me. I would like to thank each of these 3 individuals for allowing me to showcase the results here and to support the channel Chadify. If you're looking to get your face analyzed with personalized Looksmaxxing suggestions and Chadification tailored to your own unique circumstances, I highly recommend that you check out my website, Chadify.me. The purpose of Chadify is to help others. I will be employing a mathematical rating criterion that I developed. On to face number 1, guys. He's 23 years of age, he's 73 kilograms and 178 centimeters. So he's a relatively built guy for his height already. Here is the right side of his face, here's a smiling shot, and here's a mirror shot kind of showing the angle side of his face. And here's another mirror shot a little bit further back. Best features in order of importance. Face number 1. First of all, he's a straightforward grown mandible with good chin projection. He's an excellent mandible and gonial angle of 120 degrees for his gonial angle and only 10 degrees for his ground to mandible angle. And that might even be lower depending on how he situates his face. He has straight white teeth, and he has almond eye shape, which is very apparent in every single one of his photos. He has low upper eyelid exposure. There's a little bit of nuance here compared to many of the other faces that we've rated. It's not quite minimal, so it's not at the best case scenario, but it's definitely low enough to be a good feature. And he's facially lean with a low body fat percentage, and that's quite apparent as you'll see later. He has clear, soft, smooth skin, and there's no signs of aging whatsoever. He's an ideal chin philtrum ratio, albeit it's on the lower end at 2.25 to 1. And he is a compact mid-face of exactly the ideal 1-to-1 ratio. He has a decent mid-face width, however, again, this is at the low end of optimal at 1.62 to 1. And he has deep set eyes, which are apparent from his side view profile here. He has positive canthal tilt and neutral brow tilt. These are both ideal situations to be in. Furthermore, face number 1 has short eye-eyebrow distance, and he has thick, luscious hair, which reminds me a bit of Frodo Baggins in The Lord of the Rings. I absolutely love this haircut. He has good neck width, and additionally, he has good ramus length where the gonian undercuts the mouth substantially. Face number 1 also has dark, thick eyebrows and eyelashes. In fact, I would say that this is one of his best features, and if it were of a higher importance level, I would place it way further up on his list. Second to last, face number 1 has a defined Cupid's bow. Finally, high set cheekbones, which have decent definition bordering on the hollow cheekbone effect. Excellent. Facial flaws in order of importance. Firstly, he has thin lips, and this is very much obvious. With prettier features, having thinner lips is actually more of a flaw than being more masculine. As a result, this is one of his biggest flaws. Secondly, face number 1 has slightly wide set eyes. So we can see that they're 106% of one eye width apart, and his ES ratio is 0.485. Ideally, you would want 100% of one eye width apart with an ES ratio of 0.47. Anywhere from 0.46 to 0.49 is pretty good, and anywhere from about 95% to 105% is good. So he's just bordering outside of it. Small flaw. And he has average compactness of his eye orbit. So that's one of the reasons that his upper eyelid exposure is not minimal, it's rather low, because the slight protrusion of his orbitals is giving the appearance of a bit more skin here. Additionally, face number 1 has average maxillary development. It doesn't really come out far enough. This could be connected to the fact that his orbitals are not as compact as ideal, because when your eyes come out a little bit further than ideal, you need extra maxillary development to make up for it. Alright guys, guess face number 1's rating. So we got the pretty versus masculinity scale here. Boom. 7 out of 10 attractiveness. Honestly, I'm pretty sure that most of you guys would have seen this coming. However, face number 1 has a bit of a skewed representation here as a result of being a bit prettier than the average male. As a result, his rating peaks in the pretty boy zone for male attractiveness at about a 7.5 out of 10. On the other hand, from the more masculine areas, he definitely scores lower at only 5.5 and 4 respectively. Looksmaxxing advice. Face number 1. First of all, gym. Gain muscle, lose fat. The truth is, I believe it is already working for face number 1 if he already does it. I wouldn't be surprised if he already lifts because he's 160 pounds at 5'10", and that's a relatively good weight, and he looks relatively lean already, so as a result to it, continuing to do this will further enhance his hollow cheekbone effect, and honestly, like I've said many times before, pretty boys do in fact benefit from gaining muscle and getting leaner. Secondly, castor oil. Honestly, this is a random one, but I do believe it has merit for pretty much everyone, and in select cases like face number 1, enhancing this further would be so beneficial to already bring up his strong points in this area. Face number 1 would apply this in the AM to his brows and eyelashes. Mewing. Wouldn't be surprised if face number 1 already does it. His side profile and angle profiles are quite good. It's been said that mewing can improve the upper lip size, however, I do not think this is enough on its own to make a serious improvement in that area. Fourthly, face number 1 absolutely needs a skincare regimen. Well, everybody needs one, but when you're a pretty boy, this skin type is that much more important to maintain and keep soft, smooth, strong skin. So UV protection, exfoliants, and different things like this, and even like hyaluronic acid, different things that can keep his skin youthful and healthy is critical going forward. Now, lip augmentation. Ultimately, getting dermal fillers for face number 1 would have a drastic effect on his attractiveness and facial harmony. This is the key point right here. I want him to consider this. Hairstyle. Face number 1 has an excellent hairstyle. However, I have one recommendation is to get layers done when you do in fact get it cut so that it can remain in a nice kind of beautiful aesthetic look, but also to flatten out the back because it's giving a bit of a larger cranium appearance, and you can see it in the side profile here, as well as his occipital bone. And then finally, keep it up. Honestly, face number 1, you're already very attractive. This stuff is just going to further push you closer to the Chad territory overall. Time to Chadify. With unlimited budget comes unlimited possibilities. Let's take him to the 8+ range of attractiveness in an instant. Face number 1. Wow, you're really seeing exactly what I said in the previous thing. Lip fillers have been employed. You can see the hollow cheekbone effect is absolutely taking effect. And then we're going to do a zoomed in version so you can really see, oh wow, the cheekbones, the eyebrows lowering slightly, getting a bit darker. And then we got a side view here, and you can see his chin projection being increased a bit more. Enhancing it here definitely showcases the best circumstance, as well as flattening his hair out a bit on the back. All right, guys, on to face number 2. He's 19 years of age, so he's a bit younger, at 79 kilograms or 174 pounds, at 5'9" or 175 centimeters. So he's actually a pretty good weight already. If I'm not mistaken, face number 2 already has been lifting weights. This is his side profile from the right view. Honestly, his side profiles here are quite incredible. Now, this could be partly due to the camera position, but I would definitely say he has a strong side profile from both angles. And here is face number 2 wearing a turban, as this is his typical appearance that he would normally be going for, and he is considering swapping it up and letting out his hair in the future. And then here is another one with his turban. I guess this isn't really a turban here, but this shot right here technically classifies as a turban, and honestly, I think it looks quite good as is. Best features in order of importance, face number 2. First of all, he has a straightforward grown mandible with excellent chin projection, just like face number 1, if not a hair better. Secondly, face number 2 has a very interesting characteristic. See, the thing is, he has a slightly higher mandible angle, yet it fits his facial harmony of 25 degrees. Normally, this would be a flaw with my rating analysis, but in face number 2's case, and it does depend on the angle because this shot right here definitely looks a bit lower, so that could be playing a bit of a role here, but I do think it looks good in both pictures, and this is a result to his very angular side profile. Thirdly, he has an ideal gonial angle of 120 degrees. Excellent. Fourthly, he has a lengthy ramus where his gonian undercuts his mouth significantly. Face number 2 has negligible hyoid fat and sag, could be partly due to his beard coverage. However, I would say that regardless, it looks great. Face number 2 also has almond eye shape. He has minimal upper eyelid exposure. He has very deep set eyes, like wow. And he has a relatively trapezoidal jaw. On my very first video, which I definitely recommend if you haven't seen it already to check it out, face number 2 as well had an incredible trapezoidal jaw. However, I would still say this is definitely a strong feature for this guy. Additionally, he has a highly compact mid-face of 0.96 to 1 and a decent mid-face width of 1.66 to 1. Face number 2 also has high set cheekbones and decent eye proportions of 2.6 to 1. The optimal range is anywhere from 2.5 to 3 to 1, so he's on the lower end, but it definitely is still excellent. Face number 2 also has an excellent brow ridge. Honestly, if this was a higher importance feature, it would be placed much further up on his list. Face number 2 also has full lips, and he has a forward grown maxilla. This is partly why his side profile looks so good. And finally, face number 2 has equal thirds of his jaw. Facial flaws in order of importance, face number 2. First of all, he has some signs of hair loss and an oversized forehead. Again, some people inherit this genetically, so you're born with a bit of a larger forehead than ideal. The truth is, it doesn't really matter. It's still a flaw. And in that case, getting a hair transplant or some sort of hairline lowering. Secondly, he has some skin blemishes. This is obviously from his turban, this would go away, but in these areas, you could definitely see that it's not fully clear. It's not a huge flaw, but it's not quite there yet. And he has a very long chin relative to his philtrum, and this is partly due to his beard because it's a bit longer. So it's definitely classifying more in the hyper masculine range versus pretty boy or blend masculinity. Ideally, you would want this to be anywhere from 2.25 to 2.5. If you want to go for a more masculine area, maybe 2.75 or 3. 3.5 is getting a little bit out of hand in my opinion. Fourthly, face number 2 has smaller eye size than ideal. So this is how we know if someone has small eyes. They have an excellent ES ratio of 0.47. This means that his eyes are actually perfectly spaced from their interpupillary distance. However, due to his eyes being 115% of one eye with a part in the middle, right, in the middle here, they're not at that 100% ideal area. It means that his eyes should actually ideally be coming out to the red here and going a little bit further over here. So this means that his eyes are actually too small for his head. And another flaw that face number 2 has are low set eyebrows. Ideally, it should not that much further than your medial canthus. Face number 2 also has negative eyebrow tilt and moderate eyebrow distance. Again, in some of these photos, not as bad, but definitely here it is a bit longer than ideal, so it's not a huge flaw. Face number 2 also has a thin neck, even if he already lifts in the 170-pound area, so that's great, but sometimes you can still have a thin neck. And finally, face number 2 has very apparent and visible eye bags. Guess face number 2's rating. Got the blend pretty boy masculinity scale here. Boom. 6 out of 10 attractiveness. Again, he's not a bad looking guy whatsoever. Looksmaxxing advice. Face number 2. Let's do it. So the first one is hairline lowering and fixing up his hairstyle. And the reason I had both the eyebrow maintenance and his hairstyle appear simultaneously here is because they're kind of connected to each other. So let's first start with the hairline lowering. Obviously, even if it's genetic, even if it's partly due to wearing a turban or having your hair pulled back a lot, it is a flaw. And if we can get it lowered down, and maybe it even just involves changing up your hairstyle. Maybe it isn't at that point where we need a hairline lowering or hair transplant just yet. Rather, we need to cut your hair a bit. And I wouldn't say like go with a fade or go really short. And the reason is because, you know, in some ways you have not really a protruding middle third, but I don't know how you would look with a fade with this coming in. Perhaps you would want to try like a longer hairstyle out where you got it kind of winging out a bit here, but nothing excessively long like it is right now. Or you can keep the majestic long hair look. Honestly, you could pull it off, but you might need a hairline lowering in that case. In terms of your eyebrow maintenance, well, this one is due to them being close set and a negative tilt. We want to get rid of the part right here that's kind of covering the medial canthus of the eye right here. We want it to end a little bit earlier. And then we want to take a little bit of the brows at the very top here to basically induce a more positive neutral tilt for your eyebrows. Skincare. In your specific case, you do appear to probably have slightly drier skin than ideal. This is basically a preliminary assessment. Obviously, a dermatologist would be excellent excellent at pinpointing your individual circumstances. However, in your case, I believe hyaluronic acid would be very good as a base to moisturize because it can hold like 10 times the weight of water within itself or something ridiculous. So using that is definitely good for kind of improving the texture of your skin, and as well as exfoliation, of course, getting rid of some of the fine blemishes and marks. And then of course, UV protection. I mean, literally it doesn't matter what your ethnicity or phenotype is. Ultimately, even with high melanin content, you want to protect yourself. And then fourthly, eye bags reduction through improving sleep quality if possible. In some cases, you might need to use a little bit of concealer in these regions with something that kind of matches your skin. No problem there. You can pair it with sleep hygiene and definitely improve the appearance of your eye bags. So phase number 2 should also consider beard maxing because you have excellent beard genetics. It just needs to be squared up a lot more. I mean, it isn't terrible, but this part right here, you see that? That doesn't need to be there. Like, this area can be completely removed entirely. We don't need anything in the hyoid area. We want to get rid of all that. And then furthermore, let's get the connector part grown a little bit longer here so it connects nicer, but then keep this area maybe a little bit shorter to show off your lips and your vermilion border of your lips better, as well as squaring out your gonian region here, so keeping it longer here, but much shorter right here, and then square it off more in the chin. This would be very much ideal in your circumstance. And then finally, style maxing. Face number 2 is more tilted towards the masculine area. So anything like business casual, dapper clothing, or gold accessories to match your skin tone and hair color and eye color is very much ideal in your circumstance. The cardigan that you were wearing in the photo where you had your turban, that is an excellent style, rather than wearing more casual clothing like t-shirts, because I think that you look better in professional clothing of some sort. It doesn't need to be like a full-out suit, but something where you're just showing off that you have a nice fit. All right, guys, time to chatify. Face number 2. Let's do it. Boom. So you can definitely see his hairline kind of lowering a bit, not doing anything too excessive here, shaping up his eyebrows a little bit as well as kind of fixing up his beard, squaring it off more. Now, again, this guy is not a bad looking guy already, so the changes aren't like night and day. It's more of just a nice enhancement of what he already has. And then here is a more zoomed in version of his Chadification. You can really see how incredible he's looking. All right, guys, face number 3, age 19, 66 kilograms or 145 pounds at 5'6" in height. And here is an angle view and another front view, and wow, the physique shot. So this guy has been all over the map with his weight in the past, bulking, cutting, etc. This is him during a cut at 145 pounds. He looks pretty amazing. Best features in order of importance. Face number 3, let's do it. First of all, no hyoid fat or sag and a low body fat percentage. I mean, face number 3 is definitely killing it in this aspect. Straightforward grown mandible. Thirdly, no blemishes or acne. Face number 3 has a trapezoidal jaw. He has thick, luscious hair, which looks incredible, and he has good mid-face width of 1.79 to 1. He's a solid, structured chin, which is apparent in all these photos here. It's not necessarily the best in terms of projection, but its appearance here with his cheekbones and just the facial symmetry from the front view is very much good. And he has high set cheekbones. Furthermore, face number 3 has hollow cheekbones to the T. He has dark, thick eyebrow and eyelashes, and he has dark, vibrant skin, which is very much aesthetic. Face number 3 has full lips. And finally, face number 3 has a forward-grown maxilla. The thing about face number 3 is that his quantity of best features is not quite as long. However, they are that much stronger than many of our previous cases. Facial flaws in order of importance. Face number 3. Wide set eyes. Face number 3 unfortunately has an ES ratio of 0.52. This is very much out of the bounds of the 0.46 to 0.49 ideal range. His eyes are also 115% of one eye width apart, which further screws up his case scenario where they would optimally be. Face number 3 also has an overly compact mid-face of 0.78 to 1. However, this isn't the end-all be-all for him necessarily, and he has a slightly steep gonial and mandible angle. So I didn't put in the mandible angle here because the view isn't fully from the side view, so there's a chance that this is a bit less of a flaw than it appears, but I would definitely say that his gonial angle isn't quite in that ideal 110 to 120 degree area. Still, nothing too significant. And he has high upper eyelid exposure, however this is nuanced and is the reason why it's not placed up higher on importance. There's no folds, there's no unaesthetic appearance here, and it kind of fits his more pretty appearance. As a result, it's a smaller flaw because even with it being said that it doesn't look that bad, it would look much better if there was less of it. Additionally, face number 3 has average eye orbital compactness and a squinty eye shape of 3.85 to 1. There is a point where when your eyes are too squinty that they actually look a bit worse, and he's out of that 3 to 1 ideal area. Furthermore, long eye-eyebrow distance, which is also connected in a way to his high upper eyelid exposure, and average ramus length where the gonian is only at the mouth level. It's not undercutting far enough here. He has a sideward pointing medial canthus, which is definitely apparent in all the photos, unfortunately, and he has a nose bridge which veers to the left side of his face or the right depending on the camera angle, which is not quite perfect. Alright guys, guess face number 3's rating. Got the masculinity pretty boy scale. Boom, 6 out of 10 from the blend masculinity perspective, peaking in the pretty boy zone at 7 out of 10, which is quite good. And I guess the truth is, although he looks incredible, and honestly I love that hair, I love it, but honestly the problem is some flaws add up and they detract from being in that fully optimal state. That being said, still quite great. Looksmaxxing advice. Face number 3. First of all, excellent fitness achievements. Face number 3 has absolutely done wonders already, and I can only imagine how good he's going to look going forward. So again, we keep going back to this. Oh, pretty boys, they can't look good with a nice body. I want you guys right now to comment, do you think face number 3 is pretty or more masculine? Because this guy has a built physique. He's pretty. He looks that much better with a built physique as a pretty boy than being scrawny. And so as a result, I'm going to continue preaching this. Of course, you got to be lean. You got to be aesthetic. And then pretty boy archetype. Ultimately, this is going to be his big one here. Sporting the longer hair, the blonde highlights. Honestly, do not change it up. It looks amazing. And the low body fat percentage is absolutely imperative, along with the clean shaven look to showcase your hollow cheekbones to the fullest extent, and then trendy clothing in a youthful appearance. So I'm not saying that you can't wear like dapper clothing as well, but things like jean jackets and nice t-shirts are actually more ideal as a pretty guy. And then notable suggestions, skincare, ultimately we always go through this, is important for everybody. Mewing, again, it looks like you already do this, but if you do it more, you're gonna have even better development of your jaw. And then hard Looksmaxxing suggestions, things like canthoplasty, because you got the sideways pointing medial canthus here, and they're not quite like positive tilt or a neutral tilt, really they're kind of bordering on a negative tilt almost. And then rhinoplasty to get that nose bridge perfectly in line. And then finally Botox to slightly lower brow ridge. That one's very much nuanced. I don't really think you need it, but if you want to go the fullest extent with your Looksmaxxing, it's always an option. Time to Chadify. Face number 3. Let's do it. Excellent. So again, we're seeing face number 3. All the different suggestions or ideas that I provided previously being taken and employed in effect here. And then we got a zoomed in version. Can see him improving. And then finally, we got the side-by-side chatifications of everybody. You can really see how they're all quite attractive today. So the changes are a little bit minor, but that's what makes this video interesting. If you enjoyed the video, please give a like and comment as it helps the YouTube algorithm. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you guys next time.